Welcome back, everyone, to the late night review. And tonight, I have the great pleasure to talk about a movie that, when it first came out, it was my favorite movie as a kid, and that's Rocky 4 with Sylvester Stallone. And I'm happy to finally get to a Sylvester Stallone movie as well. He's always been one of my favorites of all time, one of my favorite actors. Just his movies have always been an inspiration to me when I used to watch Rocky all the time as a kid, and even as an adult too. Rocky, Rambo. Always wanted to work out when I saw Sylvester Stallone. And when I see Sylvester Stallone, Steve Reeves, Arnold, many other, Bruce Lee, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Chuck Norris, when I see those guys, always want to work out all the time. And Sylvester Stallone, and Steve Reeves was actually a great role model for Sylvester Stallone. Frank Zane looked up to Steve Reeves. I think Sylvester Stallone, one of the reasons he worked out so much was probably become just, this is what my takeaway was, is that he really worked out for a variety of reasons, but one of those reasons is because of Steve Reeves. And when I see Steve Reeves, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, people like that, and many others too, Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, when I see them, especially if I'm doing like a bodybuilding workout, which I don't really do bodybuilding, but I do resistance training. It supplements my cardio, my boxing and martial arts workout that I have videos on the channel. You could see my monthly workout that I always do. Those are on other videos. But when I see particularly like good physiques, like Sylvester Stallone or Arnold or Steve Reeves, I want to pick up some weights or do some resistance training. I really don't do weights much anymore, but I do resistance training. I do a lot of body weight workouts, a lot of body weight exercises, and I have a big bath towel that I use for various movements in my lower back and all that stuff, because little smaller weights or even moderate weights don't provide enough resistance for that lower back often, so you have to, like, I use a bath towel. Bridges won't do it, so I use a bath towel. But anyway, when I think about Sylvester Stallone, I think about working out. And when I see Rocky 4, this movie pumps me up. I like this movie a lot. And I have to say, it's my favorite Rocky movie of all time, Rocky 4. And the reasons are this. Now, first of all, if you want just great acting, a story of someone who doesn't have much but rises to the occasion and takes the heavyweight championship of the world in boxing, then Rocky 1 and Rocky 2, those are your movies. Inspirational, great acting, Academy Award winning material. I mean, those are the movies that you watch when you're looking for that. The underdog rises to the top. But Rocky 4, for a pure excitement, adrenaline. During the Cold War, you have the big boxer, the Soviet boxer from the Soviet Union, Ivan Drago, played by Dolph Lundgren, as your villain. What a colorful villain. What a fantastic villain. Dolph Lundgren's always been one of my favorites, and he's perfect for this. So if you want testosterone, high adrenaline, high excitement, Rocky at his peak, at his fighting ability, at his peak of success, his biggest challenge ever, the excitement, the adrenaline. This is your movie. And you have the punching machine, Ivan Drago, that great scene where he tests his punching power in front of everybody, and he hits it, and people are shocked about how hard he hits. This is your movie. I saw this at the theater. I was so pumped. And I remember talking to people who haven't seen this movie. A long time ago when I was a kid, they were saying, when this came out, they said, I'm afraid for Rocky. When they saw Dolph Lundgren and him hitting that thing, and the previews, the build-up. It's hard to describe unless you lived through it. This is the height of the Cold War. Drop, duck, and cover. Soviet Union, they had all these nuclear bombs. They still got nuclear bombs. It's not the Soviet Union anymore. They're no longer communists. They've changed a lot, but what I mean is, back then they had even more nukes than they do now. This is the height of the Soviet Union, pretty much, and you have America, the military so strong. You have the Russian military, people talking about head to head. It's all over the news, Cold War and this and that. Well, this movie came out at that time, and it's hard to describe unless you were there, except what I'm doing now. Hope I'm doing a fine job, but it was so exciting. You're so pumped, and this movie made you patriotic. The 80s, you kind of made you patriotic with all these different movies and the way things were back then, different from the way it is now, but it just made you really patriotic. This is one of those movies that made you pumped up, and you saw them about to clash, and then the whole buildup. And what a reason to fight, too. I mean, Rocky Balboa had such a reason to fight, to avenge his best friend's death, to avenge the death of Apollo Creed, which was um, shocking to those who were, I was young when I saw it, so I was surprised when I was a kid to see him. Nowadays, when you watch movies for so many years, you can see those things coming a mile away. He's going to get hurt, or he's going to die, I bet, or something's going to happen to him. You catch on to that stuff as you get older, but as a kid, I was born in 77. This came out in the 80s. I was young, super young, so I didn't know like I know now what would happen, obviously. But, certain things surprised you when you were at that age and things were new, and there's a lot of nostalgia that comes with this movie. It's my favorite Rocky movie of all time because of how it impacted me. Saw it at the theater on the big screen, and to see it when he hit that punching, that they measured how hard you hit with that punching machine. He hit it, and he hit it so hard people were shocked about how hard he hit. You see that on the big screen. To see the ring, to see the performance by Rocky and Ivan Drago in that final fight. And then the fight between Apollo Creed and Ivan Drago was so sad, but you saw the build up with James Brown coming out there and singing. You had the big performance by the actors or all the dancers. You had the music, James Brown's music. And the whole thing, it was great to see it on screen, on the big screen at the theater as a kid. It was such an experience, an exquisite experience that stayed with me for all this time. It is my favorite Rocky movie. I like the training montage. I like how he's getting down and just really down, and I was going to say down and dirty, but really, really basic training. When he goes to train at that cabin in Russia, you got the snow, basic training, going through the snow, running up the mountains, sawing the wood, cutting the wood, hitting the heavy bag, doing the pull-ups. A lot of primitive kind of crude training, but it worked. Old-fashioned training, and then you had Ivan Drago with the latest equipment, all the apparatus there, and the big, huge gym that he had, and all the equipment provided by the government, I'm sure. They don't want their guy to lose. And just the set design, the story plot, the whole thing really impacted me, and it's still my favorite Rocky movie to this day. Rocky 4, and Dolph Lundgren. I watched him in this, and then later Red Scorpion. He became one of my favorites as well, and also an inspiration. I Come in Peace, and many other different movies, and later Universal Soldier with him and Jean-Claude Van Damme. Rocky 4 is my favorite Rocky movie. If you haven't seen it, which most have, but if you haven't seen it, and I'm guessing probably a lot of teenagers, maybe they haven't seen it, watch it. You will not be disappointed. It is a really, really good Rocky movie, especially if you like Rocky movies, boxing. This is my favorite. It might not be everyone's. I know a lot of people like this one or that one. Rocky 4 is still my favorite. And I actually like Rocky 5 as well. That entertains me quite a bit. So I'm kind of a little bit alone there, but that's growing on some people, and that's kind of risen in prominence over the last few years. I like Rocky 5 quite a bit. Rocky 4, though, is my favorite Rocky of all time. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite movies, period. And this has been the Late Night Review. Please like and subscribe and share this video so others can see it. Have a good night, everybody.